Good morning. Welcome to the King's Reporting News Hour for the 13th day now in the 12th month, the 16th year of Changi Timilder sitting in for the second king of Changi, Youngjin Moon. And yes, we have our tech team with us, so everything is going very, very well today. Sorry about yesterday. I couldn't do the live broadcast because I had trouble. I had trouble with the software, so no worries about that today. All right, let's take our trip around the kingdom right now. And right now in Chungkyung, Tennessee, we have 15 degrees and snow. Wow. Snow is going to continue for a while, it looks like, all the way into Saturday evening. Right, all the way into Saturday evening. Okay, well, storm total of 2 to 4 inches, it says. Okay, well, get a good book, curl up by the fire, I guess. Okay, 15 degrees right now, high of 18 today. Low clouds and frigid with intermittent snow and flurries. And then tonight, some evening snow with night. At father's hometown, North Korea, in the North Pyongan province, 14 degrees and clear, remaining clear through the night, and 2 degrees for the low, and hazy sun and high of 30 degrees tomorrow. At the Cheongung Palace in Northeast Pennsylvania, currently 0 degrees and clear. Today, not as cold, with sunshine mixing with some clouds, high of 23. Tonight, cloudy, frigid, and a low of 5 degrees below zero. And at the Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground in Limestone County, Texas, clear and 26. Yes, in Texas, in the heart of Texas there. 26 degrees, real feel of 19 degrees. Plenty of sun today, windy and very cold, high of 36. Tonight, clear and very cold, low of 21. My goodness. At the Suncheon Palace in Korea, 34 degrees and mostly clear now. Mainly cloudy through the night, low of 24. Tomorrow, some clouds, then sunny, high of 44. At the Gunma Palaces in Japan, 37 and clear. And then mainly clear tonight, 24 degrees for low, 51 for a high tomorrow, partly sunny. And if you're cold, you can always go to Guangzhou, Guangdong Province, China. Currently 60 degrees and cloudy, low of 51 tonight. Tomorrow, hazy sunshine, high of 68. So some nice, what we consider spring or autumn weather there, right? Yes. Okay. All right, let's go take a look at Father's Word. So, and to the true parent, I guess true parents, okay. Okay, Father's talking about communism today, and this is a paragraph taken from a longer speech, which he gave May 27th in 1990. Okay, and this is chapter 8. Chapter 8. The title of chapter 8 is the three subject partner thought, and true parent declaration. All right, so Father says here, communism is slave and master. There is no freedom. Democracy is siblingism, 형제주의입니다. Or no, brothers or sisters, 형제, siblings, right? 형제주의이기 때문에 자유입니다. And because it is siblings, philosophy of siblings, it is freedom. 자기들끼리는 자유가 있습니다. They have freedom among themselves. 그래서 싸움이 계속 벌어집니다. And that is why there's continuous fighting. 서로 자기들이 잘났다고 싸우는 것입니다. They fight because everyone thinks that they're the best. that they're right, they're the best. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph because I think that's the one he really wants us to see. 투익사상, what is that? That's head wing thought, right? Tu is head, ik is wing. So head wing thought, 부모주의입니다. That is parentism. 미국을 보면 상원 의원과 하원 의원이 싸우고 공화당과 민주당이 싸웁니다. We look at the United States and the Republican Party and the Democrat Party fight. 왜 그렇습니까? Why is that? 부모가 없기 때문에 그렇습니다. It is because there is no parent. I thought I slammed the desk. Sorry about that. I slammed the desk and it caused a malfunction in the camera. All right, I'm back. Okay, got to be careful. All right. Speaking of fights, here we go again. U.S. tells Middle East allies to prepare for virtually certain Iran strike. Only question is when. This is on Breitbart. Senior U.S. military officials warned key Middle East allies on Friday to prepare for a possible strike on Iran, as multiple reports said Washington and Jerusalem now view military action as decided, with one source saying the only remaining question is timing, not whether an attack will occur. According to an exclusive report published Friday by DropSite News, senior U.S. military officials informed the leadership of a key U.S. ally in the Middle East that President Donald Trump could authorize strikes on Iran as early as this weekend. And the ally was told operations could begin as soon as Sunday if Washington moves forward. The report said U.S. war planners are considering attacks not only on Iran's nuclear, ballistic missile, and conventional military infrastructure, but also strikes aimed at senior leadership, particularly the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, as part of a broader effort to weaken or collapse the regime. A former U.S. intelligence official cited by the outlet said the thinking inside the Trump administration is that a successful strike on Iran's leadership could be followed by Iranians returning to the streets, potentially accelerating the overthrow of the Islamic Republic. A separate exhaustive report published Friday by Iran, citing a Western source familiar with the U.S.-Israeli coordination, who said decision-making circles in Washington and Tel Aviv have moved past diplomacy and now view military action as effectively inevitable. The decision has been made. This will happen, the source told the outlet, adding that the only unresolved issue is when an appropriate operational and political window opens, a window that could emerge in the coming days over the next several weeks. So it could be this weekend or it could be sometime in the next several weeks, right? Okay. The source said current discussions are no longer focused on reaching a new agreement, but instead on delivering what was described as an unprecedented operation intended to deliver a decisive blow that would maximally weaken and potentially collapse Iran's governing. Israeli officials view the present moment as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, with a significantly higher willingness to accept risk than during the last summer's 12-day war, when broader escalation was deliberately avoided. Those assessments surfaced as fresh indicators pointed to accelerated preparations and heightened regional tension. On Friday, U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, issued a public warning after Iran announced that the IRGC would conduct a 2-day live-fire naval exercise in the Strait of Hormuz beginning Sunday, an international maritime choke point critical to global energy flows. CENTCOM urged the IRGC to avoid unsafe and unprofessional behavior, warning that any actions threatening freedom of navigation or endangering U.S. forces, regional partners, or commercial shipping would not be tolerated, as American forces remain postured to ensure the safety of personnel, vessels, and aircraft operating in the region. Hours later, the Associated Press reported that satellite imagery shows Iran has begun constructing roofs over damaged buildings at the Natanz and Isfahan nuclear facilities, sites struck during last summer's conflict. Containing nuclear materials. The report said the construction marks the first major visible activity at the sites since the strikes and comes as Iran continues to bar international inspectors from accessing its nuclear facilities. The emerging picture outlined across the reports dovetails with the background it disclosed Thursday in U.S. media. A New York Times report said President Trump has been briefed on an expanded set of military options against Iran, including additional strikes on nuclear and missile infrastructure leadership targets and potential raids inside Iranian territory, although no final decision has been made. A CNN report published the same day said Trump has been weighing broader military options as talks stalled, citing U.S. intelligence assessments that Tehran has moved to rebuild damaged facilities and continue enrichment activity deeper underground, concerns that reinforce the satellite imagery reported Friday. The deliberations have also been shaped by private warnings from regional partners. According to a report published Friday evening, Saudi Defense Minister Prince Khalid bin Salman warned in a private Washington briefing that if President Trump does not follow through on his threats against Iran, the regime would emerge stronger, with 4 people in the room telling Axios that failing to act would only embolden the regime. The warning marked a sharp departure from Saudi Arabia's public posture in recent weeks, which has emphasized caution and opposition to escalation, including statements from Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman indicating the kingdom would not allow its airspace to be used for a U.S. strike. Reports said the administration continues to frame military pressure as leverage to force Tehran to accept U.S. terms, including a permanent end to uranium enrichment, limits on ballistic missiles, and an end to support for regional proxy groups, demands Iran has repeatedly rejected. Speaking on Friday, Trump confirmed the United States has already communicated its expectations directly to the Iranian leaders. Asked whether Tehran faces a deadline to make a deal, Trump said only they know, while tying the growing U.S. naval presence explicitly to Iran and warning earlier this week that time is running out as a massive armada moved into the region. The escalation comes amid Iran's sweeping mass arrest campaign to crush renewed nationwide protests and as U.S. intelligence assessments describe the regime's grip on power as historically weak following last year's strikes and internal unrest. Iranian officials have warned that any U.S. strikes, particularly one targeting leadership, would trigger immediate retaliation across the region, including against Israel, even as Tehran signals it will no longer telegraph its responses. With 2 exclusive reports now asserting that military action is no longer a matter of if but when, and with U.S. forces visibly positioned, regional allies warned, and diplomatic off-ramps narrowing, the Trump administration appears to be approaching a decisive inflection point. Well, here we go again. Here we go again. Here we go again. Here we go again. It's a couple of things here. Saudi Arabia stands to gain a whole lot from this if the U.S. goes in and is able to bring about some sort of regime change, for example. And so it's a little bit questionable, shall we say, that they're not allowing U.S. to use its airspace. Why would they do that? I guess they're afraid of the repercussions if if the U.S. effort does not result in the downfall of the regime. Saudi Arabia and Iran have been sort of the major competitors in the Middle East, or as the Indian news sources that I've been looking at like to call it West Asia. They don't use the word Middle East. They are always referring to it as West Asia, which is true. Yes, maybe better designation than Middle East. But anyway, we continue to call it Middle East. So, Saudi Arabia though wants to sort of sit back and watch while the United States and Israel do Saudi Arabia's dirty work for them, kind of. I would think that Saudi Arabia would be required to contribute to this situation because they're going to benefit a whole lot from the eventual outcome, especially if the regime falls, Saudi Arabia will certainly benefit, especially if the regime falls and Iran is forced to give up its whatever nuclear stuff they have. Saudi Arabia would come out very good. They will have gained a whole lot in the region. They would be the sole, along with Israel, I suppose, but within the Arabic-speaking world, they would certainly be the sole regional superpower. and if they and Israel get together, then and it's possible that they will. It's possible that the Abraham Accords will be signed by Saudi Arabia. Then it'll be yeah, peace, peace, peace in the Middle East until Iran rebuilds, but at least until that time, until that happens. So yes, how come Saudi Arabia is being allowed to sort of piggyback on this? I'd like to know that. I'd like to know that. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay, we have okay. Oops, economy. Taiwan's economy. Okay, let's see here. What shall we go? Where shall we go next? In China, sort of the purge continues, I guess, with the emergencies minister being accused of the same thing as the others, serious violations of discipline and law. And so he apparently now they say, under investigation, which means that he's in a basement somewhere having his fingernails pulled, probably. And let's look at Taiwan's economy. Taiwan's economy is really booming, really booming. And a great deal of blessing is coming to them. You might wonder why, or maybe you don't wonder why. Okay. Taiwan's economy grows 8.6% in 2025. That is a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. 8.6%. If it's a country that is sort of a developing country somewhere, just coming out into the world economy, you could understand 8.6%. But for an economy that is already relatively developed, 8.6% is pretty incredible. Fastest rate in 15 years, turbocharged by the AI boom. Yes. Yeah, AI is really pushing things up. It's kind of like the internet was, I guess, in the 90s and things like that. But Taiwan has managed to be in the right place at the right time in terms of the AI coming in to mainstream. Taiwan's economy expanded at an 8.6 annual rate last year, the fastest pace in 15 years, as its export-focused industry were buoyed by the frenzy over artificial intelligence and a surge of shipments to the U.S. And so Taiwan, I think, has now surpassed Korea and let's see here. Has the Taiwan economy surpassed? And by the way, I'm using AI. Okay. Let's see here. According to the International Monetary Fund, Taiwan's per capita gross domestic product is projected to reach $37,827 this year, surpassing South Korea's $35,000. This is the first time in 22 years that Taiwan has overtaken South Korea. Okay, well, what about Japan? What about Japan? Has Taiwan surpassed Japan? Maybe not Japan, huh? Yes. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Yes, Taiwan's economy has surpassed Japan in terms of GDP per capita. Taiwan's per capita GDP is expected to surpass Japan's this year. I assume they mean last year, or is it this year? Actually, I don't know whether they're this year, and could also pass South Korea's. The National Development Council set an average economic growth rate 2.8 to 3.6% to target per capita growth of $39,000 to $42,000 by 2028. Wow. So Taiwan, my goodness gracious sakes alive. I didn't realize that they had actually surpassed, or looks like they have surpassed Japan in terms of GDP per capita. Of course, part of the reason for that, of course, is the weakness of the yen. And so since these figures are being, calculated in dollars, if a country's currency is relatively strong against the dollar, then I think they're going to come out ahead. I think that's the way it would work. Foreign exchange is sometimes a little bit difficult to keep straight, but anyway, yeah. So Taiwan is the big country now in East Asia. Hmm. That's a pretty big development, isn't it? Okay. The advanced estimate released by Taiwan Statistics Agency on Friday was much better than economists had forecast. It was the strongest growth rate since 2010. Taiwan said a trade deal earlier this month with U.S. President Donald Trump's administration had lowered U.S. tariffs on imports from the island to 15% from 20 in exchange for pledges of at least $250 billion of investment in the U.S. in areas such as semiconductors and AI that could power higher exports, further charging the economy this year. We expect AI-related demand to continue underpinning Taiwan's export performance into 2026, supporting overall economic growth amid sustained global AI investment, Bank of America economist said. And yeah, so AI boom has also propelled Taiwan's leading technology companies to record profits and revenues. Okay. Let's ask a question that could be a little bit uncomfortable. Let's ask, how does how does Taiwan's Taiwan's economy compare to the United States? Do we dare ask this question? Okay. Let's see. Uh, yeah, well, here they're dealing with, oh, I see, GDP. Here they're dealing with total GDP, not per capita GDP. So let's limit it that way. In terms of per capita GDP, okay, that's more fair. Taiwan 34,000 and US 84,000. All right. How many of you are bringing down that average? Okay. How many of you are bringing down an average of 84,000, huh? Okay. Uh, Taiwan ranks 44th with a GDP per capita of 50,000, while the United States ranks 11th with 85,000. Okay. Yeah, come on, you guys. Get moving. Go out and fundraise. Don't be bringing down the average. Okay. That's pretty high. GDP per capita of 84,000. My goodness. Are you kidding me? All right. I think my wife and I are also bringing that down because this is per capita. I think that means individually, doesn't it? What does per capita mean? Does that mean individually? Uh, by head, yeah, you see, so it's individual. So if my wife and I, we should be making 168,000 for us to be pulling up the average. Ah, boy, that's a high bar. I'm sorry. That's a little bit too high of a bar for us. I'm sorry. Okay. We will continue to bring down the average. I'm sorry. All right. All right. Meanwhile, oh goodness, that must be, Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all those guys pulling up the average. All right. So, meanwhile, we have BRICS laying the first track for a new global payment system. Right. So they're going to try and circumvent the SWIFT system and other systems. Actually, all sorts of systems now are coming up, including stablecoin systems. Stablecoins, if you make international payments by stablecoins, that does not go through the SWIFT system or any other cryptocurrency. So this says a digital currency alternative to SWIFT is nearly here. But if they're going to do, I think, what is it? The BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, and IMF are working on their version also of a sort of interconnecting CBDCs of various countries So the BRICS may be a little bit too late on this, but here as India prepares to host the BRICS summit later this year, this was written when? Okay, this is a couple of days ago. The focus will be on a payment system linking national digital currencies. By prioritizing this infrastructure over launching a new currency, the bloc makes a pragmatic bet that practical systems will reshape global finance more than symbolic gestures. Well, that's certainly true. At the summit, a crucial agenda item signals a potential shift, developing a BRICS payment system built on interoperable central bank digital currencies, interoperable CBDCs. Ah, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. So CBDCs really are coming, and I think they're already here in some cases. CBDCs, just to sort of review, the thing to understand about CBDCs is that they represent financial tyranny, because basically with a CBDC, at least this is what we're expecting, right? Everyone will have an account in the central bank, and money will just move from one account to another within that central bank. And the central bank will be able to track all of the purchases and payments and transfers and everything like that. And the central bank will be able to program CB. And this is the thing about CBDCs. And this is what really gets the people at IMF and BIS really excited. I mean, they really, their, what should I call it? Anyway, their hormones really start boiling up, right? When they start talking about programming CBDCs, programming them to be spent on some things, but not other things, programming them to expire at certain dates, like, for example, a supermarket coupon or something, right? You have to spend it. And the purpose of that then would be to discourage saving and encourage consumption, which you want to do if you are in a debt-based system. You don't want people saving. You want them to be consuming. And also, others. And those populations can be defined, in terms of whatever demographic information you have. People over 6 feet, people under 5 feet, or people with a certain nose size or shape, or people of a certain skin color, a certain amount of coloring in their skin, or people of a certain gender, or people in a certain area, living in a certain area, or not living in a certain area. All those things become programmable in a CBDC. And people who are in the international financial system, people who are riding the white horse of the apocalypse, are really excited about this. Why? Because it represents control. And of course, their philosophy is that the world would be a perfect place if only people would just listen to them and do what they are told. Because they're the smart ones, you see. They're smart ones. Free market, forget free market. They're the smart ones. So now they're going to link CBDCs, interoperable CBDCs. So what do we do in this kind of a situation? What can we do? Well, my idea, this is not financial advice. Nothing said here is financial advice, but, or should I say but anyway. Okay, well, let me tell you what I'm doing, okay? This is not financial advice, just sharing what I'm doing. I am doing my best to have assets outside of the financial system. Stuff that, in other words, stuff that the central bank or the government cannot create more of, at least not very easily, or they can't, they cannot create more of, right? So that is what I am doing, and not recommending that you do. I mean, if you want to become part of the CBDC system, you could write me about it. We'll find out what it's like. We'll find out what it's like. Oh, maybe if we want, maybe you'll be censored. I don't know. But yes, they're talking about inter is pretty scary. That is pretty scary. All right, but that's the direction that we're moving in. That is for sure. That's for sure. Let me get rid of this. Okay. Let's see what else is there. This infrastructure-focused initiative has drawn less attention as it avoids the drama of calls for a BRICS currency or overt de-dollarization. However, its avoidance of headline-grabbing moves may make it more consequential, underscoring the main argument: practical infrastructure changes can reshape finance more than symbolic changes. In this spirit, rather than challenging the dollar directly, the proposal focuses on a more pragmatic between national digital currencies, reducing reliance on the dollar-based SWIFT system. Of course, the SWIFT system is what we have now, basically. When banks, when you send a bank wire from one country to another, it goes through the SWIFT system, and I've forgotten what that stands for. It is not SWIFT, that is for sure. For me to, move money from the United States to Korea, especially if it's over a weekend, right? Especially if it's over a weekend, takes 3, 4, 5, could take 5 days. And actually, they tell me not to expect it for, I think, 7 to 10 days. In reality, it comes quicker than that, but they just put the deadline out there, 7 to 10 days. So I'm always happy. It came in faster than they said. But they purposely put a deadline of 7 to 10 because they know it's going to come in 3, 4, 5 days, and not 3 days for sure, 4 or 5 days, and they think I'll be happy that way. A recurring misunderstanding surrounds BRICS financial cooperation. The current initiative does not seek to create a single BRICS currency, nor does it require member states to cede monetary sovereignty to a supranational authority. Earlier proposals along those lines faltered for predictable reasons: divergent inflation regimes, incompatible capital controls, and concerns about dominance of the Chinese yuan. The present approach moves in a different direction. It aims to link existing national CBDCs, such as India's digital rupee, China's digital yuan, and Russia's digital ruble, through interoperable infrastructure. Each currency remains fully sovereign. What changes is the infrastructure that allows them to interact more efficiently. And India wants to play a central role in this. Okay, well, we will see. They say that it's going to be at the end of this year, so we'll see what happens between now and the end of the year when the BRICS actually have their summit in India. It's expected. Okay. All right, let's see now. Okay, let's do one more story before we go to the Christians in India. This is an important story on China. And Opinion Piece saying that we need to start getting serious about China. Ian Hayworth, Washington Examiner: China is our enemy. It's time we act like it. Let's take a look at this. Okay. For years, the West has been stuck in a never-ending and self-defeating spiral when it comes to downplaying or even ignoring existential threats to our civilization. Radical Islam is dismissed under the banner of multiculturalism, and any critics of its spread throughout the West are deemed Islamophobic. energy policy must unquestionably be dictated by a deranged Swedish teenager. Is she still around? Is she still a teenager? And any critic uh, of said deranged Swedish teenager are deemed anti-autistic or something. She's autistic. And then there's the ultimate threat, China. Of course, it's true that our leaders engage in sporadic acts of saber rattling, delivering impassioned speeches about American values, launching press releases, condemning aggression, and even imposing the occasional symbolic sanction or tariff, usually when an election is on the horizon, of course. But when it comes down to it, when it actually matters, when there is a clear, tangible opportunity to say no to China, we fold like a suit your aunt bought for you on Temu for 425. A little bit of an exaggeration there, maybe, right? 425, $4.25. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe $42. No, I don't think it'd be more than 42. The latest example is almost too perfect in its absurdity. The UK government, under the leadership of Labour Party buffoon Keir Starmer, is going to approve a massive new Chinese embassy in London, despite explicit warnings from British intelligence that the site would be impossible to secure, warning that it was not realistic to expect to be able wholly to eliminate each and every potential risk associated with the building. I'm sorry, what? Yes, the intelligence services of a nuclear-armed Western democracy and key U.S. ally are openly acknowledging that they cannot protect themselves from the Chinese spying this building would enable. And the British government went through with it anyway. It's like going into a Mexican restaurant, being told by the chef to avoid the shrimp chimichangas, and then ordering 5 of them. Honestly, this could make an amazing script for a new James Bond movie if Hollywood had the guts to make China movies anymore. They don't. Now, to preempt the inevitable COVID-era hysteria over anti-Asian hate, whenever someone dares criticize the Chinese government, this isn't about paranoia or xenophobia or hating Japanese people. I'm sorry, Chinese people. What did I say, Japanese? Chinese people. No, it's about finally recognizing the reality the Chinese state is our primary geopolitical adversary. Well, the Chinese Communist Party, right? Of course, the Chinese state is an arm of the Chinese Communist Party. And pretending otherwise is no longer merely naive, it is reckless. The Chinese Communist Party does not behave like a normal Western government. It is not like France or Japan or Australia. It doesn't share our respect for free markets, law, or civil society. The CCP, like the communist regime that it is, views anything we value as a vulnerability, co-opting every institution, indeed everything, as part of the goals of the state. And yet, somehow, we always act as if China will stop doing it, will stop doing what it has been doing for decades. Like this time, the lion won't eat you if you smother yourself in catnip and climb into its cage. This embassy, this academic partnership, this land purchase won't be different because it's never different. After all, it's not like China's global strategy is subtle. They openly combine industrial espionage, political influence operations, cyber warfare, and economic coercion as part of a single coherent government project that Western policymakers just pretend doesn't exist. Well, this is a very good point, of course. The Chinese Communist Party has an objective, and that is to place the world under communism, and specifically under the Chinese Communist Party, and even more specifically under Emperor Xi Jinping. Under Xi Jinping. Right? We don't know what's going on in China right now. As we've said today, the most recent rumor is that Zhang, the guy that was arrested, Zhang Youxia, was assassinated. That's now the rumor. So, and, and every day there's a new rumor, and at some point you gotta sit back and say, wait a second, some of these rumors have got to be not true. I think probably maybe 99% of them are not true. But that's all part of the effort that they're making to accomplish their accomplish their objective. And anyway, so yeah, so they are different from Western governments. That is sure. That is for sure. Yeah. And of course, UK, they made a mistake in the way they dealt with Hitler back in, what was it, 38, 39, 1938, 1939. And clearly they're one of the countries that is making a mistake in the way that they deal with Xi Jinping today. Um, and so is the Finnish Prime Minister, so is the Canadian Prime Minister, Carney. He's also making a mistake, and all because they hate Donald Trump, right? And they hate Donald Trump so much that they're willing to offer up their own countries to Xi Jinping. That's pretty amazing, yes. Yeah. Okay, so this goes on and on and on, but yes, I think the main point, we understand the main point. I want to make sure I get to this other story about Indian Christians. Indian Christians facing rising persecution look to America for help. Okay, this is on the Epoch Times, and they are bearing witness to a climate of intimidation and violence. Their work continues, sometimes underground, and they hope America will respond. Of course, India being a majority Hindu country with a significant Islamic population and some other religions as well, including Christianity. Amit recounted a familiar story for Christians in his region of India. Pastors jailed, parishioners afraid to worship in public. The situation, Amit said, is getting worse day by day. Almost 2 millennia after St. Thomas the Apostle brought Christianity to the subcontinent, believers in northern India bear witness to a rise in persecution. Laws on religious conversion and physical attacks, including during the 2025 Christmas season, have driven fear into sanctuaries of love and faith. Deepak, another Christian in northern India, said there's a lot of intimidation and harassment going on. He said Hindus radicals regularly attack or disrupt Christian gatherings or go to mob violence. As a condition of speaking with the Epoch Times, both Amit, who has worked in Uttarakhand, and Deepak, who is based in Delhi, requested that their names and details of their activities be anonymized out of fear of reprisal. Statistics from the United Christian Forum, published on the local website, The Wire, reflect an increase in violence against Christians in India in recent years. Hold on a second, let me bookmark this. Let me use it someplace else. They documented 734 attacks targeting Christians in 2023. In 2024, that figure climbed to 834. And here you see number of incidents in India. 2009, just 151. No, was at not quite 6 times, but more than 5 times. Genocide Watch, the Voice of the Martyrs, and other organizations have also chronicled anti-Christian trends in the country in line with a similar pattern of growing violence against Muslims and other non-Hindu Indians. Amit, Deepak, and others who spoke to the Epoch Times linked what is happening to the Bharatiya Janata Party, a political party that has ruled India since 2014 under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They decried the influence of the street-level Hindu nationalist group associated with the BJP. Much of the organized, sometimes violent opposition to Christianity is concentrated in northern India, a BJP stronghold. And Nigel Barrett of the Conference of Catholic Bishops of India, the Episcopal Conference of India's Latin Catholic bishops. Latin means, they're loyal to, I think that means they're loyal to Rome. Told Epoch Times in an email that the persecution is not confined to northern India, citing attacks in the western state of Rajasthan after it passed a conversion law in the southern state of Karnataka and elsewhere across the country. So here's the Prime Minister Modi. Henry, how do you pronounce that? Anyway, another Indian Christian in Delhi told the Epoch Times that the governments are not doing much to help the Christian community as it comes under attack. The BJP and the street-level Hindu organization did not respond to requests for comment from the Epoch Times. Some Indian Christians and close observers hope President Donald Trump, the man who has pledged to save Christians worldwide, will respond. Commissioner Stephen Schneck of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom told the Epoch Times that the U.S. government should issue targeted sanctions against Indian government officials and entities who participate in or tolerate egregious religious persecution of Christians, Muslims, and others. Scott Bledsoe, who served as a pastor for 28 years, has visited India twice, cultivating relationships with Christians there. He said his latest visa to visit this past summer was denied. Bledsoe told the Epoch Times he started to hear about anti-Christian persecution in the last 10 years, describing local mob violence against groups attempting to build churches. Over the same period, major Christian nonprofits operating in the country faced setbacks and scrutiny, often tied to their receipt of money from abroad, including from the United States. In 2017, Compassion International, a humanitarian organization headquarters in Colorado Springs, said it left India under pressure from the government. The Missionaries of Charity, the group founded by Mother Teresa, sustained a serious blow in 2021 when it was barred from receiving foreign funding. Deepak said these incidents are a bad sign for the homegrown Christian missionaries planting and nurturing small churches, including in unfriendly parts of the country. If you can go after them, then smaller organizations don't have any chance, he said. In recent years, states across India have passed laws against forced conversion, and numerous Christians accused of coercing people who accepted their faith have been jailed under the statutes. I see. So Christians are accused of coercing people, and they've been jailed. Some Christians believe the opposition even extends to a kind of low-level surveillance enforced by the street-level Hindu group and similar groups. And this group alone is estimated to have 4 million members nationwide. There are spies and people that are always watching what we're doing, Deepak said. He said some believers worry that singing a religious song in their own home could draw scrutiny from neighbors, leading to arrests and prosecution under forced conversion laws. Deepak recounted a visit to a church where that fear meant services were kept very quiet. I did a small donation with them from the Bible. I did a small devotion with them from the Bible and how the church was persecuted, he said. A wave of attacks on Christmas celebrations in late 2025 linked to the street-level Hindu group and similar groups renewed concerns about the safety and freedom of Christians in India. What is this here? Devotees light candles outside a church during Christmas Day celebrations in Amritsar, India on December 25, 2022. The plight of Indian Christians has drawn attention from U.S. political leaders who cite controversial conversion laws and related mob violence. Ahmed said Christmas services were restricted in many parts of northern India. Schneck described a sharp increase in targeted attacks against religious minorities over Christmas 2025. Similar attacks have continued into the new year, he said. Amid rising tensions late last year, Modi attended a Christmas service at New Delhi's Catholic Cathedral Church of the Redemption. The Indian Christians who spoke to the Epoch Times, however, were skeptical of the sincerity of that gesture, attributing it to concerns over votes. It was disturbing to see limited official condemnation from the political authorities, Barrett said. However, a recent judicial decision on a conversion law drew praise from them. In December 2025, judges on the Allahabad High Court ruled that merely preaching Christianity and distributing Bibles does not run afoul of a forced conversion statute in Uttar Pradesh, a heavily Hindu state in northern India. Uh, this guy described the ruling as good news, but said many people do not yet know about it. It's this here, a general view of the deserted Allahabad High Court. Okay, so this is the court that gave that ruling. The plight of Indian Christians has started to attract the attention of American political leaders. In a December 19, 2025 op-ed in The Hill, Representative Glenn Grotham, Republican of Wisconsin, and U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom leaders asked Secretary of State Marco Rubio to designate India as a country of particular concern, a designation outlined in the International Religious Freedom Act. They cited its controversial conversion laws and the resultant mob violence. A 2023 State Department report on religious freedom in India noted Christians' concerns about those laws and their reports of harassment. That same year, the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom held a forum on religious freedom in India. And Sunita Viswanath, Executive Director of Hindus for Human Rights, testified that the Biden administration is in denial of religious persecution in India, failing to call out India's persecution of its 250 million Muslims and 40 million Christians. 40 million Christians. That's not a small number. That's more than 10% of the US population. It's unclear how much attention India's Christians will get from the Trump administration. After a 2020 meeting with Modi, Trump defended the prime minister, saying he wants people to have religious freedom. Ahead of his second term, Trump pledged to protect persecuted Christians, promising to broker a peace deal between mostly Christian Armenia and mostly Muslim Azerbaijan, a goal he achieved in August 2025. Last October, Trump announced that Nigeria would be designated a country of particular concern because of its killings of Christians in that country. We stand ready, willing and able to save our great Christian population around the world, he wrote on social media. Although the Trump administration has sought to align India against Russia and China, some analysts say U.S.-Indian relations have frayed as the administration imposes higher tariffs on that nation and pursues stronger ties with its neighbor and fierce rival, Pakistan. The United States specifically targeted India as a strategy to reduce Indian oil purchases from Russia, wrote Paul Staniland, a professor of political science at the University of Chicago, in a column for the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. However, Staniland said recent policy actions to improve trade suggest a softening of tensions between the two countries. This guy said that Christian persecution in India has only increased during Trump's second presidency. Some observers believe that the reality could yield a leverage in negotiations with the country. Bledsoe suggested the United States might be able to apply financial pressure to make India more tolerant of Christians within its borders, a proposal in line with the Trump administration's frequent use of tariffs and similar tools to shape the behavior of foreign counterparts. Deepak said the Trump administration could urge his government to speak on the subject more clearly. Barrett said his group remains open to constructive engagement from President Trump or other U.S. leaders should it arise. Regardless of the United States' actions, India's Christians are keeping the faith and planting new churches, sometimes, though not always, underground. Bledsoe said Christian ministries he follows in India are still holding public services. And this is an Indian Christian villager, looks over her home on her return from nearby jungles following an attack, allegedly by a group of Hindu fundamentalists at Firangia, India, on August 30th, 2008. Most of this is in the south. Wait a second, I thought it was in the north. What most of what? Oh, I see. holding public services. Okay, I see. So most of the public services are being held in the South. That region is less hostile to Christianity than northern India. Deepak said India's underground churches are holding strong. They're continuing to do the hard work of loving on people, loving their neighbors, he said. Amit lauded some of those neighbors, everyday non-Christians in India, who have drawn attention to the persecution, including during the recent Christmas time attacks. He said the faithful continue to proselytize despite threats. Many new believers have been added to the church, Amit said. The Epic Times reached out to one of India's largest churches, and none responded. Okay. So, yes. So I think an article like this really tells us, first of all, how blessed we are that, we talk about opposition. We even use the word persecution, but I think in Brazil, I think is the only place I've heard where unification churches were actually burned down. That happened. That happened. What was that? That was during the 90s, I suppose, or maybe no, during the 2000s, I guess, but not recently. But I think 2000, mostly 2000s, I think, was when the unification churches around Brazil were being uh, attacked and burned down. But um, that was a fairly rare situation. Of course, we have Blessed Center families in jail in China, um, and we've had martyrs during the Soviet era. There were martyrs in Eastern Europe. But all in all, I think Unification Church has been fairly blessed and protected, shall we say, protected by God, protected by true parents. And um, well, these Indian Christians, dare I say, need to be given tools. Okay, this video is going to be uploaded to YouTube, so I'll stop right there. I'm sure you know what I mean. They need to be given tools. Okay, okay. Ah, yes, the self-censorship that we go through. Oh, my goodness, that's terrible. Anyway, okay. All right, let's see here. We got a couple minutes left over. What else do we have here? Um, hold on a second. Let me share this with you. People are creating all sorts of code words to get around YouTube censorship. But at some point, the YouTube AI is going to figure out what the code words are. We'll have to find new ones. Yeah. Former Google software engineer convicted of AI espionage, trade secret theft. Yes. Looks like a young kid. High value Pokemon cards attracting criminals as prices skyrocket. And you threw them, you threw your kids' Pokemon cards away. Shame on you. Treasury reports $1 trillion debt surge in under 3 months. Yes, it's going to collapse. It's going to collapse. And California man arrested after fortified underground bunker found with weapons cache. I mean, I don't know why he was arrested. If he wants to do that, I think he should be able to do that. I don't know. Well, I guess there was maybe it wasn't zoned. Maybe the zoning was wrong. Didn't have a septic system, perhaps. Okay. Right. Chinese Americans versus Taiwan's wild, sweet, and savory snacks. Kind of a slow news day, isn't it? Okay. Let's take a look at, let's take a look at what else. No, I don't want to go. Oh yeah, let's go to Newsmax. Just 1 minute. There we go. Okay, Epstein docs. Okay. No, yucky, yucky, yucky. But okay. Trump op ed, tariffs revived economy, defied experts. Okay. Minneapolis Mayor Frey is pending. Okay. New York City targets Newsmax in taxis, seeks ban. Why do they have Newsmax in taxis? Manhattan Borough President has launched a campaign targeting Newsmax and seeking its ban in the city's taxicabs. Okay. Last year, Newsmax signed with Curb a deal to provide a 1-minute news update hosted by one of the network's anchors to over 15,000 taxis across the country. So a 1-minute news update hosted by one of the network's anchors, well, I see Newsmax's anchors, to over 15,000 taxis across the country. Well, that was a pretty interesting move. Well, we'll see how that works out. But New York City, of course, is veering way to the left. Anyway, gotta go. Yep. And this is Saturday, so I will see you in the new month, or the new Gregorian month anyway. So God bless, Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly.